Hey, this is Evan Marquette, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women, your personal trainer for love. Welcome back to the Love You podcast. Today we're covering some really important stuff. We're going to be doing so in a short period of time. I have so much to say about this that I think it might turn into like a webinar or a mini course or something if I really flesh this out beyond podcast form. But I like the idea of giving things in something that's very concise. And so without further ado, if you haven't subscribed to the Love You podcast, please take care of that now. Just click on the link to subscribe to get notified when all new content comes out on Apple, on Spotify. Give us a positive review on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Now, 5 small dating habits. I think when most people do things like that, they make the small dating habits really small to the point that they're ineffectual. Like, it's like, don't forget to, brush your teeth before you go out. Personal hygiene is important. Or, make sure your shoes match your belts. These like really like shallow kind of things. Or, have an open mind or a good attitude. And it's not that that's bad advice. You should brush your teeth. You should have a positive attitude. But I think more in terms of action steps. I think there's a lot of dating and relationship advice out there that is, how should I say, the illusion of advice, the illusion of help. It sounds really good, it just doesn't do anything to proactively change your life. And we're in the business of changing lives. We're in the business of doing something different to produce a different result, not just simply understanding it. There needs to be an action step. Without the action step, nothing actually changes. You just have a great understanding of men and their attachment styles and blah, 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 blah. So here's what I think you should do. 5 things that you could write down, implement, and see a tangible difference in your love life if you follow these 5 steps. Number 1, broaden your search and screen in rather than screening out. So most people, when they date online, and again, I know why this is difficult, there's such a flood of people. You don't want to have to deal with the flood of people. So you narrow your search. What do you narrow your search to? Well, we don't have to necessarily make it into a checklist, especially on an app. But when you narrow your search, the narrow search usually results in women dismissing, swiping left on 95 to 99% of men. At least my clients do. And so my contention is not that you're wrong for thinking that there's a lot of dreck crap out there. I'm not telling you to go out with anybody who is unattractive. I'm not telling yourself to have to talk yourself into anything. I'm only pointing out that if men use the same exacting standards, there's a decent possibility that you would be eliminated if you are not in the top 95 to 99% of women based on looks. And that is sort of a recipe for disaster. So we broaden our search, right? If you're using a Match.com, I'm still old school. If you're using a Match.com, that does mean, as I said in a previous podcast, going from 6 feet tall or to 5'7". It does mean saying, instead of going 5 years younger to 5 years older, going up to 10 years older. It does mean saying if you make $150,000, it's okay if he makes $95,000. These are all little fixes that can literally quintuple your dating pool. So if we say, Evan, I'm not lowering my standards, you're telling me to lower my standards, I'm not lowering my standards. No, I'm literally just getting you to see more people and more possibilities. You can still be picky, you can still have high standards, no one's telling you otherwise. I'm going to do another podcast in the future about attraction. So I can assure you, anything I'm telling you is designed to be more effective in dating. And if you're still really selective, but now your search is broader, you might still only like 5% of people, but you're liking 5% of a broader range of people, right? And that's before we've considered any of their other characteristics. So in Love You, we talk about having a funnel. Right, there's all these guys at the top of the funnel, and then they narrow themselves down. Very few people are qualified to go on a first date with you. We have to begin with enough people at the top of the funnel in order to be able to even procure a love life, to be able to talk to 7 to 10 guys at a given time. Right, and that is a made-up number, but it is based in truth. If you're talking to 7 to 10 guys at a time, it doesn't mean you're dating 7 to 10 guys at a time. It means you're in various forms of text, email, phone call with 7 guys. And chances are only one of them is going to be enthusiastic and available and excited to meet you for drinks on Friday night. So you might need to talk to 7 to 10 guys to go out with one guy each week, which is our love you standard. So the way we achieve that is not by just narrowing in on the 5% that we talked about, right? It's expanding the search, screening in. Is his profile and photo 6? All right, let's swipe right. Let's talk to him. Let's engage in conversation. Maybe something will pop, maybe it won't, right? And if you have too many people, you could obviously narrow it. But when people complain, not getting anything, everything's getting stuck, part of the reason things often get stuck is that we haven't looked wide enough. And I always use the example of how my wife wouldn't have chosen me because I'm Jewish, and I wouldn't have chosen her because she's 3 years older than me. And that remains a problem, right? For how humans use online dating. We tend to go narrower, and we need to actually go broader. Number 2, date online for a half hour a day. Now, I wouldn't even call myself an advocate of online dating. I see it as a tool, the way going on LinkedIn is a tool if you want to get a job. So this isn't pounding the drum of online dating. I would prefer you meet people in real life. I've done plenty of podcasts about how real life, unfortunately, just generally, especially at a certain age, doesn't produce enough opportunities. And so this is a really useful tool to have. The same way that I joke about being a personal trainer for women who want to fall in love, there is the idea that I'm going to join the gym and my life is going to change. And then there's the realization that if you join a gym, but if you don't go to the gym consistently and you don't work hard at the gym, it doesn't matter that your gym has amazing equipment. It doesn't matter that there's qualified personal trainers there. All that matters is your follow through. So how do we integrate dating into your life in a really healthy fashion to normalize it? Not, oh my God, I hate this, right? I have to do this, but rather it's eating and sleeping and showering and working out or yoga or meditation. It's part of a daily practice. It's part of a daily routine, and you keep it tight. We don't want dating to bleed out into the rest of your life. We don't want it to own you. Sometimes dating is like the tail wagging the dog, and people get really consumed with dating and texting and all the guys. That has too much of a negative effect on your mental state, I'm afraid. So we want to keep it tight. Put a time on your calendar. Give me a half hour a day to show your face, be seen by other people, respond to those who are qualified, who wrote to you, and maybe even initiate contact with people that you like. Now, with the inbound, the guys writing to you, and the outbound and you initiating contact, and there's a skill to that, right? You can have the kind of love life that we're talking about where you could theoretically go on one quality pre-screen date per week. That is hard to do if you don't date online, if you date online really sporadically, if you date online for a month and then quit for 5, if you do it for 3 hours on a Saturday but you don't check after that. We're just looking for consistency. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, much harder to describe in a podcast. This is the kind of thing I can almost only do on a coaching call. But don't text what's easy, text what's interesting. I mentioned recently that I did a VIP day with a client who came to my house. We spent a whole day together, and including going through her Hinge and her Match and seeing how she wrote to guys. And she's bright and she's funny. You could not tell that from what she was writing to guys. She did what most people do. She had the very, very reasonable excuse. These guys' profiles have nothing. They didn't say anything. So she says one sentence to him. He responds to her generic lame question. What do you do? What do you do for fun? What are you up to this weekend? Are you close with your kids? He responds with one-line answers to her one-line questions, and the conversation is like, and everybody knows that. So the medium helps to create this, but this isn't the way people talk in real life. We don't do one-sentence Q&As when you meet someone at a party. We speak in paragraphs. We speak in tangents, and it's discursive. And so what we're trying to do right now is figure out how to channel your personality in text. And so it means stopping and challenging yourself. I'm not just going to write the easiest thing because I'm so busy. If I write something generic and lame, chances are he will too. People are mirrors. They respond to each other. If you write something that's opinionated, if you write something that's clever, you're more likely to get something opinionated and clever back. If you say, he should, well, then I understand that he should. You'd like it if he wrote something opinionated, clever for you to respond to, but that just goes to prove my point. If you could be a better online dater when he gives you something good, he can be a better online dater when you give him something good. So there is a skill, an art, and an intention behind texting something that is interesting. In Love U, we call them opinion openers. What is your opinion? What is your observation? Don't state facts. Don't interrogate. Facts are not interesting. I have a dog is not interesting. I see you have a schnauzer. I love schnauzers. How cute. Not interesting. I want to hear your personality. Your personality only comes up when you express an opinion or an observation about something in his profile. Right? And that is a skill. That is something, but the good news is it's a skill you can learn. It's taking things that are up here and actually bothering to write them down, right, instead of censoring them. All right. So an example of an opinion opener, and I could do tons of these, are you take any detail from his profile. You know, he says his favorite place is Costa Rica. Right, and then you just think, all right, well, what do I know about Costa Rica? You could like, you don't have to be a genius. You just be like, what do I even know about Costa Rica at all to be able to express an opinion or observation? Well, me, Evan, the only thing I know about Costa Rica is that the only reason I know about Costa Rica is people go with their families and they go ziplining or they go on yoga retreats. That's literally all I know about Costa Rica. So I would write a text that said something to that effect. Hey, Brad, I see your favorite place is Costa Rica. Gotta be honest, not sure if it's an island, Caribbean, Central America. I don't know the first thing about Costa Rica. All I know is that the only time I've ever heard the name Costa Rica was from women in LA who go on yoga retreats. So tell me, is it true? When you fly into the airport, do you see 25,000 people doing down dog while you're landing on the tarmac? Right? Stupid. That's the idea. You're making conversation, right? He says Costa Rica, and you just do a little riff on Costa Rica. You see how that's better than, oh, I see you you went to Costa Rica. Those photos are beautiful. I love travel too. I'm planning on going to Spain this summer. What's your next destination? You see the difference in tone? One, you're talking about a thing. One, you're doing this strained Q&A. So I want to hear you give your opinions. If you can give your opinions, your text conversations will come to life. Men will enjoy them more than the other people they're talking to. And now we've got a basis to go to the next step. Number 4, dating habit that will change your life. Don't get stuck in texting hell. Right? You got to keep things moving. Once, and in my program, I discourage texting at all. I know that sounds crazy, but I like to avoid texting entirely where possible because I think texting is the death of communication. But since nobody listens to me, if you're going to text, you cannot get stuck in texting hell. You have to have some momentum and escalate to a FaceTime call, right? Or at least a phone call. Something where you can actually connect in a way that is more intimate instead of one sentence back and forth every one day, 3 hours, whatever. 5 minutes of conversation is far better than 3 weeks of texting. So you need to have the skill to show him how to get to the next phase. Remember, you're the CEO and he's the intern. That's his reward for being good at texting and giving good conversation. Oh, by the way, Brad, right? Press the little green dial button. I'm around tonight. I'm around right now since we both have our phones in our hands. Would love to hear your voice. Or, hey, love texting you. Can't wait to make a connection. Can't wait to tell you this story. Can't wait to whatever, right? I'm around tomorrow night at 7:30 while I'm in the car. Please let me know if I could expect to hear from you, right? XOXO, whatever. So it's warm, flirtatious, assuming the answer is yes, progressing. You're not asking him out. You're not being bitchy. You're not being bossy. You're assuming that he wants to take to the next step, right? So you need to have that FaceTime call prior to the date. If you set up a date through texting, through the app, what's going to happen? There's a distinct chance you're going to go on a blind date with someone that you don't like. Why? Because you didn't do any screening. It would be like someone who just walked into a CEO's office with a resume and said, hey, interview me. Right? If you don't have a screening process, dating is going to be more soul-sucking. So I'm giving you a screening process. There's the written portion, and then there is the first date, which takes place on the phone or on FaceTime or on Zoom. Right? If you skip any of these phases, you're going to discover you're going to have too many bad blind dates with people who have no investment in you because you went so fast. Everybody wanted to meet, instant gratification. And I think that's the worst way to date. And I think it's the way most people are dating right now. In the past, distant past, you go out, you talk to someone at a party, you get a phone number and a napkin, you give that person all of your attention. It felt better, right? So how do we make people feel better about our interactions instead of making everybody feel disposable? Swiping and texting makes everybody, including you, feel disposable. How do we personalize the interaction more? Certainly going from texting to FaceTime is a way to screen candidates so you don't go on bad dates. If you hate them on the phone, there's no reason to meet in person. And it'll also strengthen the possibility that when you meet in person, it'll feel good and organic, and you can give them 3 hours on a Saturday night because you spoke for 45 minutes the other day. So absolutely necessary step that a lot of people skip. Finally, last small dating habit that will change your life. Make your dates count. Okay? It's a date. It is not a meet and greet. It is not 20 minutes at Starbucks to see if someone's fuckable. It is not looking at your watch and saying, how do I get out of here as quickly as possible? You want to maximize, not minimize, the quality of the date. And I think most people go in the opposite direction. Back in the day when I used to date, I would go on a date with someone I was excited about because I'd been flirting with her for a week. And I would call and I would plan and I might pick her up or drive her home or meet her at the restaurant, but I would choose a restaurant that was nearby and it was cool and it was interesting and maybe I'd have plans for her afterwards and we'd both get a little dressed up and there was some excitement in the air, the potential for a kiss at the end of the night. None of these things happen if you swipe, text, and meet a total stranger as quickly as possible for drinks at Starbucks. It just can't happen that way. Right? So we want to move your meet and greet coffee date to a phone call so you don't have to go out to meet a stranger and take up even more of your time. Make your meet and greet date your phone call. If that goes well, now you can feel comfortable having a real date on a Saturday night where you're not looking at your watch. You don't have to be at work the next day. You can give someone your fullest attention and you can get dolled up a little bit and you can get a little butterflies, right? And be in your feminine and allow the guy to showcase his best, because you're not just quickly assessing each other and trying to figure out how to get out for the least time, least energy, least investment, right? That is what sucks about dating, and it's the opposite of what everybody is doing. So bringing back some old school values, right, and treating each person like an individual, because I could almost assure you, you'd rather go on one decent date the way I described each week than 3 blind coffee dates with strangers that you've texted twice. If you stop and think about it, you know that that's true. So those are 5 small dating habits that if you take them and nothing else, those things will change your life. If you hear that and want to argue with me about it, great. Comment below. If you think it's a decent idea, but the execution of it seems a lot harder than I describe, tell you what, I will show you how. Go to evanmarkkatz.com/now. Get on the phone for a free breakthrough session. If you want to make dating fun, effective, get you the relationship you deserve, where you feel safe, heard, and understood, where you feel unconditionally loved, where you don't have to be in this grind anymore. That is the goal, is to have someone who could take care of you. And that, when I'm working with you, that is my job, is to take care of you until you find the guy who's going to take care of you. That's the joy of doing what I do. So, I've gotten a bunch of clients into relationships, marriages. You can go to my website, go to evanmarkkatz.com/love you, love stories, or you just click on the link at the top of the page and you can see that's a fraction of them. You can see yourself on that page. There are people who are older than you. There are people who are less attractive than you. I have no doubt that you can be helped, but the next step is up to you. My name is Evan Mark Katz. This is the Love You Podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please give us a positive review. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and share it with a friend. Someone needs to hear this today. These 5 tips really are game changers if you can do them yourself. And if you can't, I'm here for you. Thanks for your time. I love you. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.